Hi guys, and welcome back to the Library of Alexandria. And today guys, I will be reviewing Boosh, The Dragon Republic, Book 2 of The Poppy War by RF Kuang. So guys, this is a fantastic book. It's so good. It is from start to finish, with the exception of one minor chunk of pages. It is just an explosive roller coaster to the finale from start to finish, with one little log flume. You know that part of the boring log flume we're just going like this before it hits the thing? There's one section like that I didn't like and seemed really pointless or forced, or I don't know. It was like a complete halted the action. But other than that, this is an incredibly exciting book. I actually liked this book better than I liked The Poppy War, I think, because this book, unlike The Poppy War, which dealt with really small-scale engagements, it's Rin and the Psyche engaged in smaller confrontations rather than seeing the military at large. This one really does deal with two armies against each other pretty much the whole book. It picks up from the end of the Poppy War, where Rin is dealing with just the grief and the guilt of the decisions made at the end of the Poppy War, and Rin is just the poster child for PTSD. As she wrestles with her decisions from the first book, it is just, guys, Rin is difficult to read. She is so filled with guilt, which she channels into rage. She's so filled with hate and rage that it is hard to read. She's not just unlikable. Her obsession with revenge and just killing people and being angry, it just puts everyone around her at risk. And guys, it's hard to read. It is hard to be in the head of someone who's so dang mad all the time. Like, I think I said this in my Poppy War video. Guys, if you have a friend who's just angry at the world all the freaking time, isn't it exhausting to be around that person all the time? Guys, if you're mad all the time, stop. Try not to be so mad. Like, look at some things that don't make you mad. Like, everything can't make you mad. Like, how can you sustain yourself? You are going to burn out. Your candle is going to sputter and blaze bright with hatred and rage, and there's going to be nothing left. So, guys, calm down. Don't be so mad at everything, because you're a drag to be around. Just like Rin is a drag to be around here, guys. It's just exhausting. It makes me tired. Like, it made me physically tired just to see her, like, drop an F-bomb at someone for just, like, talking to her. It's like, it's like, Rin, like, calm down. Like, someone said hello. Like, chill out. Ugh, I'm tired even talking about it, guys. And so the plot of The Dragon Republic is essentially Rin and the remnants of the Psyche trying to get revenge on Empress Daji, who they believe betrayed them and Alton at the mountain in the first book. They found out that Daji allowed the Muganese Empire to attack and perhaps even sought it out. And because of that, they believe she is a traitor and they are going to kill her. And conveniently, the dragon warlord, Nezha from the first book, his dad, Viceroy, is staging a rebellion to overthrow the Empress and establish a republic where the people will have some kind of say in their government. And so Rin joins up with Viceroy here, and that's why it's called the Dragon Republic, because that's what it's going to be called. She joins up with Viceroy in an attempt to bring down the Empress and her armies. And so that is the plot. And guys, again, Kuang's prose, it is so workhorse. It just shoves you forward. So much happens in this book. More happens in this book than happens in books twice as long. Because Kuang just doesn't waste any time, with the exception of the one section in the woods with someone called the Sorkin Sira. What is the point of that section? Like, it just feels less organic and more like narrative device. It's dumb. I don't like this section. you could remove it and I would be totally happy. But with the exception of that, it is military engagements all the way. Generals trying to outsmart generals, betrayals upon ambush, and it's just amazing. This is the stuff that I love from military fantasies. This right here is the reason that I do read military fantasies. I love watching armies clash on the battlefield. And really, as this happens, lines get blurred. Who really is fighting for, well, really, I mean, you know, war is never good for the common man. So what's really the point of the war we're fighting anyway? But it's just amazing to watch. And as I said, in this book, Rin's rage is all-consuming. It almost pushes to the point of annoyance like Tao from Rage of Dragons, whose single-minded focus was just, like, I did not enjoy it. It's not quite there. She does manage to have some kind of other goals in here, and I think that's largely because we get, unlike with Tao, we get a lot of introspection with Rin. She examines why she's feeling this way, unlike in Rage of Dragons, where we don't really ever see any of Tao's inner thoughts. It's just revenge, she's gonna go. With Rin, what we see, and this is I hate Rin. She's the worst. I don't like her at all. But we do see why she is the way she is. Rin is an addict, and not just for drugs. She is an opium addict in this one. She feels it's the only way that she can actually channel the Phoenix and keep the Phoenix in check. And watching her struggle with her opium addiction, I remember I was so annoyed with it. Like I'm just like, oh my gosh, Rin. And I know, and addiction, guys, as someone who smoked for 12 years and then used an electronic cigarette for another 8, quitting nicotine was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my entire life. So I absolutely understand the struggles of an addict. That doesn't make anyone want to watch my struggles more than I want to watch Rin's. It's just annoying. And the last time I felt, and she writes, Kuang writes it really well, because the last time I felt this way and felt this annoyed at a character going through withdrawals was frickin' Eddie Dean from the Dark Tower series. If you've read the Dark Tower series, Eddie is a heroin addict, and watching him deal with that is just, it's insufferable. It's insufferable. But it's well written, and so we have that here. But she's not only addicted to opium, she's also addicted to battle, because just like opium, battle lets her not, when she's fighting, she doesn't have to deal with her grief and her rage and her hatred. She doesn't have to deal with these feelings, of being weak. Remember from the Poppy War, Rin cannot stand feeling weak and powerless, and so being in battle helps her not feel that way. So she's addicted to killing people and fighting. She's also addicted to approval, and this is just one of the tragic things about Rin, is that she's a child of abuse. The Fongs were abusive, and even all that time in Sinigard, no one was nice to her except Katay, and so she is just so hardened on the outside, but inside is just a child that craves approval, and that is really why she signs up with Viceroy's Dragon Republic. Is she likes being needed by Viceroy. Viceroy wants to use her as this, powerful Spearly with this fire magic, and she's okay with that. Because one, she gets his approval. She craves Viceroy's approval. This guy who is above her and is just one of the nobles, for him to approve of something. He really serves as kind of a father figure for Rin here, after all of her other adult influences are gone. Zhang is gone. Alton's gone. So she looks up to Viceroy and is addicted to doing things where she can get an attaboy from Viceroy. Because Rin really has this desire to be used. She has this desire to be used as a tool, to be wielded as a weapon, because when someone else is using her and directing her and like hurling her at an enemy as this weaponized force, it not only gives her a purpose besides revenge. Her purpose is whatever her wielder or master's purpose is, but it also, and this is key to Rin's character, it removes her from responsibility. This whole book, she is trying to avoid taking responsibility for the end of the Poppy War, trying to avoid taking responsibility for the people who have died on her watch. Her being in charge of the psych, she doesn't want to take responsibility for these engagements that they have, because if they die, it's on her shoulders. So she just has this great desire to be used by someone else, so that when something goes wrong and something something bad happens or she has to do something terrible, it's not on her conscience, but on theirs. It is not her responsibility. And she does this, she feels the same way with her relationship. She shoves everybody around her as far away as she can. She tries to push everyone away, everyone. She's huge porcupine, this huge porcupine on fire, shove everyone away because she doesn't want to take the responsibility for having to have these interpersonal relationships. And it's just, again, it lends to the exhaustion, it lends to the tragedy. I don't like her, but I do understand her. Now, some of the side characters in this one, other than Rin, are better drawn if they were in the first book. Like we get more from them than we did in the first book. Of the rest of the Psych, not really. They still are, the other people in the Psych are really just determined by their powers. That's what they are. They're narrative devices. From Kitay, we get a lot as he deals with his PSD. Rin is dealing with the end of the Poppy War, and Kitay is still dealing with the PSD from Golan Nice. And I think it does a really good job of studying what war does to the human psyche when you're witness to these brutal horrors. I think Viceroy is a really well-drawn character who you don't really like, but do because he gives Rin purpose, and you hate Daji. And we learn more about Daji and the triad with the Dragon Emperor and Zhang. And so you even learn more about her. And so I think that the secondary characters, not really the other Psych, and the Sorkin Sira, no, I don't even know what that is. And another character that I'm not really going to talk about in case you haven't read it, there's some stark differences from the first book to here with the characters that we've seen before. But there's also some like archetypes, like the really arrogant general that won't listen to anybody who knows better, who you know is just going to lead everybody into their death. Guys, I hate that character. Cause I read a lot of military fantasy, and I really like competent generals working against each other, and I don't mind incompetent generals. I think they're interesting and they exist. I just really hate reading about the arrogant ones who are put in charge of the whole freaking army, but won't listen to anybody. It's like, you are terrible at this. You are terrible at war. Like, who doesn't listen to people who are smarter than them? That's so stupid. Anyway, I hate that. As I said, the pacing of this book is incredible. The military engagements are just top notch. When army clashes with army, or smaller squad clashes with smaller squad, some of my favorite in recent memory. I also really like the questions that it asks of not only the soldiers but the citizenry. It asks a lot of things about politics, like who should rule? Should the strong rule or should the many rule? What will people do to preserve themselves? How far will people go for self-preservation? What will people do when they're scared? Like, you may think that there are things that you'll never do, but if it comes to protecting you and yours, or if you're terrified for your life, who knows what we would do? It also deals with the question, how do you compare traumas? There's a lot of times in here where everyone is suffering from some major malfunction, from some, oh my gosh, so much tragedy. And characters just collide because so-and-so's suffering from the after effects of this, and so-and-so's suffering from the after effects of this, and everyone thinks that they've had it the worst that has ever been had. Like, I have the worst life, and like, you can't even compare that in real life. Like, how do you say that you have it worse off? If you do that, there is one person in the entire world who wins that. There's one person who has had it worse than anybody else in the whole world, and no one can say that. He can't say, well, someone else has it worse. No, because this person has it worse. You can't do that. And we see that come into conflict a lot here as well. We also see, and this is what I love, we see how costly revolution is. It is bloody, and it is terrifying, and it is not clean at all. Any student of history can see that. And I think sometimes in fantasy books, we don't see that. There's just a revolution that's done. Here, like, it is costly. Now, one of my absolute favorite things from the Dragon Republic is the introduction of the Hesperians. Now, if you've seen my History of the Poppy War Part 1 video, in that I talked much more, it was really about the Opium Wars, these wars with Britain and China, how Britain kind of forced China into these unfair treaties as kind of an uncivilized nation, and China just wasn't prepared to deal with the advanced technology of the British. And the first Poppy War book is kind of has some of those elements, but it's really largely about the Sino-Japanese wars between China and Japan, which I will talk about in my part 2 History of the Poppy War video. And so it was so cool to see so much from the Opium Wars being lifted here with the Hesperians. The Hesperians are essentially Britain. They are this white Western nation that has come to maybe assist the Republicans in fighting against the Empire. And remember, they fought in the first Poppy War and really were kind of the victors there and kind of imposed their will on Nikon, and then they left and kind of left them to govern themselves, and now they are back at Viceroy's behest. And it just says so much about imperialism and politics. The Hesperians are sitting here as they're returning as imperialists and as conquerors. People they've already conquered Nikon. And they're here and they're deciding whether to intervene, whether it's worth intervening. And there's just this discussion of civilized versus uncivilized. The Hesperians obviously thinking that they're the civilized Westerners versus the uncivilized Nikara. And they don't want to intervene if they don't think that the Nikara can be civilized, can be essentially westernized and turned into just a kind of a vassal state or extension of the West. And just with so many villains abounding in this, watching the Hesperians, their allies, and their monstrous arrogance and this white savior condescension, every interaction with the Hesperians just screams just pompous, and literally you want to grab every one of them by the throat and just punch them repeatedly around and about the face. But it's so good. Kuang writes the Hesperians here so good. But ultimately, the Dragon Republic is about Rin learning to accept responsibility and to make her own decisions. And I think this satisfactorily concludes. I love the twists and turns that happen in this book. I think the plot of this book is just fantastic, and I have just started reading The Burning God. I am super excited to see how this concludes, because just the action of this is just some of my favorite that I've read this year. Now, on the Kingfin approval system, I give this book a superb minus, and out of 5 stars, I give this book, I initially gave it 5 stars, as well as the Poppy War, but the more I think about it, the more I think on it, while the action stays with me, I hate all of the characters. I think both of these books are 4.5. So I'm going to give The Dragon Republic a 4.5 stars because I love the plot of these books, but I don't love anyone who's engaged in them. I don't root for them. I don't really care about them. I like what's happening, but you know what? I could really go either way. I don't care who wins. I'm in favor of whoever the victor is. That's whose side I'm on, because I don't like the characters are just so unlikable. I know my buddy Sam isn't even going to read the 3rd one because of how unlikable everyone is in the Dragon Republic, and that is true. It's a problem. Everyone is a grade A douchebag. Pretty much everyone. And so I think that's going to hold it back for me and keep it at a 4.5 stars. I love this series. I strongly recommend it. If you are a plot-driven reader, 100% for the love of humanity, why haven't you read these already? So I will be back with a review of The Burning God when I am done. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Information for my Discord and Patreon are down in the description. I will see you next time.